Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Evan McCauley, president of the club, and we are thrilled to have you joining us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. Come out and join us for a meeting. We'd love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact that we are having on the local community and world, please visit rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and be the inspiration.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests, and welcome to our May 29, 2019 regular Wednesday morning Rotary meeting. Our invocation, I'm Tom Tobin. I'm subbing for Ron Strobel as Sergeant of Arms today. If I could have Rich Warfield step up and lead us in the invocation.
Who?
Right, Reverend.
Hi, Reverend.
Speaking from the heart.
Yeah, before we bow our heads, I'd like to thank the men that showed up on Saturday to help clean the pool. It was a fun time, and we got it done in a record time, and we're still waiting for Richard, Sir Richard that is, to go back and empty the water out of the pool and put it back in as his first year guy that cleans. But he can do that next year. We talked about that. So thank you all. I don't remember, I know Kelly was there, Richard, Pat, Evan, the guy with a broken wing over here, and J-Dog was there, and took a lovely picture.
Kelly.
And I think I said Kelly already, so I know there's a few. Oh, Clint. So anyway, Coach, you left early, but he did as well as he could on that broken wing, and we put him on locker duty. And he did a great job, but we all received one of these little gifts, so wow. I want to present this to you, okay?
Thank you.
Oh. Can this go as replacement as my fines that you're going to assess me?
Not a chance.
Nice try.
I just keep that money out of my wallet. Let's bow our heads. Lord, as Evan says, speaking from the heart. And, thank you for all these men and women here today, and let us be appreciative of the gifts that you have given to us, and let us think of you at the beginning of our day and during our day instead of at the end of the day when it's over. And let us put you first, Lord, and let us pray for all these men and women attending this club meeting on this day, and may they go about their days safely and think of you, Lord. In great and powerful name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Right. And let's see, Lynn, why don't you come on up and show us how to do the Pledge of Allegiance before we test.
All right. Before we do that, I have to say Evan is like my son and said, hey, can I talk to you? Is there something that maybe you could do for us? And my son used to say, Mom, did my girlfriend tell you the news? So when you said the pledge before we test.
That's always a good way to start a conversation.
That's okay. Join me in the pledge.
All right.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it better friendships?
and fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All right. Well done. And how about Chris Barker? Would you come on up and tell us, lead us in the song? And yeah. So we have You Are My Sunshine.
All right, so Mr. Zapatowski, my friend Joe here, wants us to sing You Are My Sunshine this morning.
There isn't any
So
outside.
let's see how we work.
You want to skip the second?
Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to sing verse 1 twice, okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to monitor. Okay. All right, and I'm going to try to not start us too high, because sometimes we're all soprano. Okay.
Yeah.
You are
My sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So please take my sunshine away.
And Chris, would you announce our guests?
All right, I'm going to announce a couple guests that joined us today, other than the speaker. So if these two fine people could please stand, so we can give them a warm Rotary welcome. We have John Hudick. He is a guest of Keith Beers. He's the business banker at Northwest Bank. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, John.
And then my friend Lori McLeese has joined us again.
Morning, Lori.
Okay, and then one announcement. I sent out an email about our annual recognition dinner and officers installation. So that's going to be Wednesday, June 26th at 6 p.m. at the Hilton Garden Inn. So if you could please send me an email to let me know if you'll be coming and if you'll be bringing a guest. Actually, let me know either way. The cost is $45 a person. So if you could please start bringing in your checks payable to the Rotary Club of Hudson. We'll get everything set up, but it's going to be a wonderful event. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And let's have Evan up. Thank you.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians. Welcome to Rotary Wednesday. It wasn't raining on us when we came in. Maybe it will be when we leave. But just continue to bring the sunshine out today and for the rest of this week. Just a couple of quick announcements. Thank you to Rich and the crew for being out at Camp Manitowoc. That pool is absolutely incredible, the facility they have there. And tell you what, you never really realize, Rich, how many bathrooms they have at that camp until you're cleaning every single one of them in and out. I think that we're going to try to work a pool party picnic into the calendar later in the year, so maybe August. So more information on that. Another fun activity that happened over this Memorial Day weekend, we participated in the parade. So there were a number of folks that were out there in the convertibles with our scholarship winners and had a great time out there. Keith was talking about how he and Chris were trying to have a race to the finish line or something. Throwing some elbows too, I don't know.
I think so.
So thank you to everyone for participating in the Memorial Day Parade. I hope that everybody had a nice long weekend celebrating with family and friends, maybe a cookout or two. I had 2 cookouts in the same day, so that's a lot of burgers. One somber piece of news, today there's a memorial service for a past president of our club. He was the president in 2000, 2001, and that's Dennis Taylor. So he's a Hudson resident. Many of you may know Dennis, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers and his family also. I think that covers us. Does anybody else have any updates for the group? Anything exciting going on in Rotary that you're working on? All right, well, I've told a couple of jokes, Coach, since you've been away from Fine Day, and they haven't been that well received.
That was better.
Yeah, that was a good one. I gotta just make fun of myself. But we're gonna be raising some money today for the Memorial Day exhibit in downtown Hudson. And without further ado, our fun Fine Master, Coach Ed Sogan. This guy was out at Camp Manitowoc too, cleaning the bathroom. So round of applause for Ed.
I like your costume today, Ed.
Thank you. We have a golf theme this time around. Couple things about Fine Day. Most of you remember, we haven't had one for a while, actually, right? Okay. Boisel was on sabbatical, and unfortunately I was out of town, but Maximum is $5 in fines, unless you would like to contribute a little bit more toward the cause. This is a fun thing. Again, the jokes are lousy, but we appreciate any applause and laughter that you might be able to muster. The cause, as Evan mentioned, most of you are aware that there was a plaque outside the Boy Scout cabin that was mounted on a kind of like a stone type of contraption that they had put up years and years ago. Well, 81 members of the Hudson community went off to World War I, and we had no casualties during the war. I think we had a person pass away of influenza after the war was over, but that speaks highly, since that was a tremendous percentage of the people who lived in Hudson at that point in time. Chris Bach is like a one-man band in regards to this particular project. The plaque is now in front of the clock tower, and it will be moved to a permanent site by the Boy Scout cabin as soon as those funds are going to be able to put up the permanent structure. So our little contribution is going to go toward that today. Also, if you read in the paper, the Baldwin Bus Moreno House is going to, there's a group that's trying to purchase and restore that. And many of you remember Rich Marino and in his beverage store and the house that he lived in. Well, this house again is a historic part of Hudson, and there's a group again that's going to be working on that, so it's another thing that's kind of in the news. A neat thing that happened during the parade, if you weren't aware of it, but we had U.S. Army Specialist Darby Hartman on the float for the clock tower Rotary. And she surprised, her dad knew about it, but she surprised her mom and grandmother during the parade by being there and getting back from Germany. So that was kind of an emotional reunion right in front of the clock tower. So that was a neat part of the parade. See our collectors today. Allison's going to be on this side. Chris is going to handle it over here. We have first no pins and no badges. I noticed a few people there. David?
How'd that happen?
It's $1 for those people that don't have their pins or badges.
Bad boy table.
Speaking of the parade and no pins, we had Mayor Basil. If we get $1 for him.
That's awful.
He always wears the Hudson city pin, but he never, in official duty, doesn't have it there. Dan Williams, who ducked out of the meeting here because he knew he'd get tagged with a $1 fine, and Bill Woldridge, also in representing the president of City Council, did not have his Rotary pin on. I did not see a pin on our flag bearer, Tom Tobin.
What? Well, you didn't look. I had one.
I could not see it. It was away from me. I was announcing it.
I had a Rotary hat on.
I couldn't tell either. You were walking so fast.
You're whining down.
Get up, Bart.
I don't have a dollar.
There are no appeals.
There you go.
Yeah. You can put more than $1.
I promise I will bring.
Double it for whining.
Chris,
I took care of you.
did you have your pin on? I didn't see a pin on you.
I'm looking for it.
Okay, all right. And Keith, I didn't see a pin on you either, so that's a major faux pas. Keith Veers did a great job, and along with Chris carrying the banner. Again, last meeting I detected a phone call being received by a person over in that area. The gentleman's adjusting his glasses, Dan Filburn.
Oh, yeah.
That's another fine for having a phone call.
Oh, damn.
There may be, like I said, a joke or two that is a repeat. I can't remember what happened yesterday, so if you hear a story really hard, our leader, Rich, was outstanding. He would walk off toward the dining hall, and we'd see him like once every hour and a half. He said he had to get hydrated or something. Bad girls table over here. David, I don't know why you sit over there. They were discussing Alexa, and most of you have seen that on commercials. How many have an Alexa at home? Okay, you guys are on the cutting edge. That's great. Okay, again, it allows you to do several things at home, and you just talk to it, etc. But the Bad Girls Table was talking about that, and the concern is they didn't want Alexa listening to their conversations because it's on all the time. and there are some security issues that are, follow along with that. And one of the members mentioned that they have found a solution. They have a new one now that they're putting out, and it's a male version. And the nice thing, it doesn't listen to anything. We have our bad boys table right over here, and two of their members visited one of the downtown establishments that serves adult beverages. We're not going to endorse that particular institution, but it is celebrating its 100th anniversary this weekend, Friday and Saturday. I think Father Joe's going to give us a blessing over that particular establishment.
Is your poster still on the wall?
Yeah. Well, that was from the old days. By the way, again, the two members, I'm not saying they visited often, but there's a bronze plaque on the bar stool where they sit. Well, they're sitting there and they're looking across the bar, and one of our Rotarians says to the other, "Look at those two old codgers. That'll be us in 20 years." His Rotarian buddy whispers to him, "That's a mirror." Did I see Jim Lang? No, he's not here.
I got mirrors.
Okay. Well, this is a season for golf, as I mentioned. This is a little golf story. Rich Warfield invited Jim Lang over for golf at his club. Again, Rich calls it his club. Golf pro knows both of them, so he required him to take out caddies for two reasons. One is to keep an honest score, and the other one is find the golf balls because they spray them all over the course. Jim said to his caddy after a few holes, "I'd move heaven and earth to score 100 on this course." And the caddy said, "Try heaven. You've already moved all the earth." Later, Rich asked the caddy, "Do you think my game's improving?" The caddy said enthusiastically, "Yes, sir. You missed the ball much closer now." Needless to say, the game was closed on account of darkness. Rich, pay a buck again.
Yeah.
Our Rotary quiz, we're going to divide this up, and we'll have this half of the room will be one team, the other half will be over here. We're going to pick one person. Liz, you're going to be the go-to person over here. Jim, you're going to be the go-to person. So what will happen is anybody that has an answer, it goes through you. You can only say one answer. If it's the correct answer, they are fined $1. If it's incorrect, you guys pay.
And if
We're going to start over here. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated for you.
This is our mouthpiece, okay.
In which country did the dance samba originate? You have 5 seconds.
I'm going to say Brazil.
Rio.
Brazil.
Brazil.
It is correct. You pay $1 over here. All right, put those bucks up there.
Well, Jim pays $1, right?
No.
For everybody.
Jim pays $1.
Okay, this one goes to Jim. If the answer goes to Jim, one answer, please. The postal abbreviation for Maine.
Oh, God.
M.E.
Very good. You pay $1 over here. This is getting pretty good.
didn't make it.
This is the first time we've actually had 2 correct answers in a row. We've only been doing this for 10 years.
Who came up with the question?
All right, back over here. Which Great Lake has more shoreline than the entire eastern seaboard?
Superior.
Maybe on our team.
I'd go with Superior.
Superior.
Wrong, it's Michigan. Michigan. I just want to meet
Well
people
done.
wrong.
Well done.
All right, last one. Which American inventor averaged 1 patent for every 3 years of his working life?
Edison.
Thomas Edison from Milan, Ohio. Absolutely correct. You pay another $1 over here. Game's over. Thank you very much for contributing. Around the room, another golf story. This is Jim Ahern, outstanding golfer and member of our Rotary Club. Did you know that a good golf partner, this is a quote from him, is one who is always slightly worse than you are? That's why I get so many calls to play with friends. Pay a buck, Jim, for being a great golf partner. Doug McDowell, another great golfer and member of our club. Golf is the perfect thing to do on Sunday because I spend more time praying on the course than I would in church. Pay a dollar. Okay, this is my math on the golf course. You can hit a 2-acre fairway 10% of the time, and a 2-inch tree branch 90% of the time. Collect that for me, Allison. Another memory from one of our members, and this one's kind of touchy, so I'm not going to mention any names here, but, and this is a quote, a few years ago while vacationing in Florida, I remember, again, this is a member of our club, Hurricane Irma. I was ready for it, but my husband was not. The wind reached screaming proportions. The rain was falling horizontally. Tremendous amounts of rain. Flying roofs, broken fences, and unnerving sounds. My husband was rooted to the spot. He stared and stared through the glass of the sliding glass door, immovable with his nose pressed against the pane. The stark fear in his eyes will stay with me forever. Fortunately, as the eye of the storm arrived and the wind subsided and lessened, I was able to open the door and let him in. Okay, we have Rotary anniversaries, 1 year each for 2 fine new outstanding members of our club, Marilyn Orr and John Adams. Let's have a nice round of applause. Bob Cramp, 8 years. Congratulations, 8 years there. Wedding anniversaries, Sharon and Doug McDowell, 51 years?
Yeah.
And her parents said it wouldn't last. Let's have a nice round of applause. Okay, spouses' birthdays. Jan Ahern's was on the 25th, I believe.
It was.
And Deb Basil and Mary Sogan both celebrated on the 27th. We have our Rotarian birthdays. Pat Shearer was on the 2nd. David Schwickenhofer on the 7th. Tom Page on the 11th. And Stu Murray, who celebrated a few birthdays since 1922. That would be 97 years. And his birthday on the 12th. Let's sing a nice rousing happy birthday. Remember, the pitch doesn't have to be good. It just has to be loud. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stu. Happy birthday to you.
All right.
Does anybody have any happy news? We pay a few bucks and get a chance to say it. And speaking of a happy guy here, back at our meeting.
That's my happy news.
Let's have a nice round of applause.
After he pays $1.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, David Basil.
As of June 30th, I will be retired from the full-time practice of law at Key Bank.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Another lawyer on the street, right?
Devote more time as mayor. That would be fantastic. And the final thought is don't try to be perfect.
Anybody can.
Just try to be better than you were yesterday. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
Thank you.
Good jokes, Ed. Good jokes. Welcome back.
Very helpful.
No, they weren't even Tough crowd. You just need to get them 3 or 4
Ed, can you hurry up?
That was awesome. Tom, you win the award for best laugh too. I mean, it's contagious. When you get going, everyone gets going.
We noticed it.
Hey, Coach, I think we should give you a couple months off more often.
Yeah.
Let's
keep it coming.
refuel that tank. All right, well, we're going to get into our program this morning, and our guest speaker is not new to Rotary. She has been with a couple of Rotary groups and speaking engagements in the past. And it was funny, we were talking, I asked if she had a presentation, and she said, everything looks like it's such a great setup. You guys are way better than most of the other clubs that I've been at. I said, well, do you have a presentation? And she said, no. I said, well, you know what? Things are going to work out a lot better because we don't have to worry about the AV equipment.
That's true.
So we have a special guest introduction, and John Adams is going to come forward and introduce Lanny.
You bet.
So I was informed about 2 minutes ago, I'm doing this introduction here, so.
That's the special guest part.
Special guest part, all right. It is my privilege to introduce you to Lonnie Davis-Frecker, Masters of Education, President and CEO of the Julie Billiard Schools. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, since 1954, Julie Billiard Schools have provided the highest quality education for students in grades K through 8 with high functioning autism, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, and other specific learning differences. I toured the facility that they have in Akron around this fall, I believe it was, and was blown away by what it is that they do there every single day. And I found out a little bit about Lonnie, that she is from Hudson. Her father, Ken Davis, a deacon over at St. Mary's Church. She grew up in Hudson and then has just as of recently moved back to Hudson.
All right.
And she's also the mother of 2 children. I believe you told me a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. So it's my privilege to introduce to you Lonnie Davis.
Well, thank you all for inviting me today. And thank you, John, for that introduction. Of course, I walk
So
in
we're
true.
going to have you use a mic because we're recording. So if you like to walk around, we have a...
Or
Oh,
if you want to stand there, that's
Yeah.
fine.
This
but-
is fine, yeah.
Okay, good.
But in true Hudson fashion, I walk in, and in Hudson you can't live here and not know someone everywhere you go. And I walked in, and I was, talking, and I see Mr. Ed Sogan. And I always knew him as Mr. Sogan, and I was always on my best behavior around him. And I did play basketball and soccer for Hudson City Schools, so I know him well, and it was nice to see a familiar face. But this community is just full of good people with good hearts who care about other people. And so I was really excited to have this opportunity to tell you all the good work happening at our organization and bring it to you today. So I'd like to start with, I do a little simulation usually when I talk, because unless your life has been blessed with a child with special needs, you really don't understand kind of what it's like. So I want to take the next 2 minutes, and the person directly next to you, I want you to talk to them about your most favorite vacation you ever took. I want you to talk about what you saw, what you did, all the things that you loved about it, and the memories that you made. You have a minute to do this each, and you cannot use the letter L. Go.
Go ahead. I'll go with you. All right.
We just got back from 2 weeks. What's that? We're going to come there in about 2 months. We landed in the large started in
1 more minute.
Milan, but I can't stay up there. Milan's got an L, Industrial has an L. Venice, Cuomo, a town down here, Pisa, another town with a lot of art. We made our own, we put our own.
30 seconds.
2 L's in the middle.
Okay, finish up your last thought.
Even though it has an L in it, it's fantastic.
Okay, so why do you think I had you try to do that little simulation?
Yeah, this is a small.
I saw some people laughing, talking slower. What else did we do?
You have to think about everything you're saying.
You have to think about it before. Jim?
The listener isn't listening what they're saying, they're just trying to find L's.
Exactly, and I think that sometimes, when I first did this experience, I was like, I felt really not as intelligent as I like to say that I am. I felt a little bit slow, and I felt really super self-conscious about what I was saying. And this is to show you how sometimes our kids feel who have expressive language delays, which is part of being on the spectrum. It's part of dyslexia. It's part of anxiety, ADHD, and sometimes our kids who know everything they want to say in their head, or they know everything that they have actually learned, have a really hard time just getting it out. And sometimes I think that before we can ever really understand where they're coming from, we have to walk in their shoes a little bit. And so that experience is just this much of what they deal with in a whole entire lifetime of knowing what they want to say, knowing what they want to do, and sometimes just struggling to get it out. So the faces behind me are much more beautiful, and I love to bring the kids and actually have them talk. This morning I do not have students with me, so as I speak on behalf of them, look at their faces, look at the beautiful faces in our brochure, because that's really who I'm here to represent. And my presentation's pretty quick, but there's a lot of question and answer at the end if you have any questions about our facility, because we are kind of a different organization that's doing really the only Catholic school in Ohio that's completely dedicated to students with special learning needs. So we are a network of schools for students with special learning needs. Like John said, we're autism spectrum disorder. About 60% of our students are somewhere on the spectrum. A lot of our students have ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, and other social and learning needs. We have an original campus in Lyndhurst, as well as our school that we just launched in Akron. It's a 2-year-old school. Our original campus in Lyndhurst was actually launched 65 years ago. So we've been there for 65 years, and it was started by the Sisters of Notre Dame. And if you think back to 65 years ago, what was happening to students who had special learning needs? They were institutionalized, they were sent out of the public schools, and they were not being given an education. So in the true amazing fashion of the Sisters of Notre Dame, and women in general, they said, God did not make a mistake on you, so please come to our school. And they created a school that had a wood shop and was much more for kind of a functional curriculum that our students came to. And they started the school with 14 kids, and when we launched our Akron school 2 years ago, we started with 14 kids. So very providential. And really, we've been there for 65 years and decided that we were at full capacity. We have 130 students, all with special learning needs. And we had a waiting list, and the calls that we would get daily, parents trying to get their kids in, we decided to launch a second school. And now our growth plan is really to have 6 schools across Northeast Ohio, all dedicated to students with special learning needs. And really that growth plan is probably every 2 years to be launching a school. So we have 2 schools now, and the plans are to have possibly a West Side location in the next 2 years. So really, we really want to, we know that 65% of students who are on IEPs, individualized education plans, in the state of Ohio, only 65% of them actually graduate from high school. It's really sad and really low. At Julie Billiart School, 100% of our students go on and graduate from high school. And that's a wonderful statistic. And I think that what we've done is provide an opportunity for the kids to be loved first in our environment, because often they've been bullied, often they've had really amazing struggles and have never felt successful in a school. So the first thing that we do is show them that they have gifts and talents to give to the world, and they can be people of contribution too. We are a Catholic school. Our students are not all Catholic. Only about 40% of them are Catholic. We do what we do because we are, not because they are. I believe in kind of the universal meaning of Catholic, the little c, that really we should include all. So we have a loving, accepting, and very belonging group of kids, and we've created a community. The thing that I love to do most is either let you talk to the kids, which they're not here, or I like to be the mouthpiece for our parents who can really talk about what it has done for their child. So today I have two quick stories. One is from a graduate of our school and what he wrote about our school, and then the other one is actually from a parent and her experience with going to Julie Billiard School. So I will start with the graduate. Julie Billiard School and its teachers and staff helped change my life. I transferred to Julie Billiard in 4th grade, confused, struggling, and quite exhausted. I had no idea until I came to JB. Suddenly, everything became much clearer. The teachers explained to me that different students need to learn differently, and they reassured me that I wasn't stupid, lazy, or anything of the sort. They simply worked with me to figure out how I would learn best and taught me accordingly. At JB, I wasn't written off and left to struggle alone. I wasn't passed off to tutors during class time to learn yesterday's lesson while missing today's. At JB, the teachers explained today's lessons in words that I could understand and answered my questions if I still needed help. At JB, I wasn't one of too many kids in a big class. I was one of only a few. There was time for my questions, and the teachers weren't too busy to deal with me. And that felt good. My self-esteem soared. My grades picked up, and I was able to play with my friends after school instead of being confined to a desk all night, trying to figure out what I hadn't understood in class. The endless cycle of learning yesterday's lesson with a tutor only to come back for the rest of today's lesson and wind up losing sleep finishing my homework was broken, and I was a regular kid again. So I still get teared up reading his because it's really come full circle. Now he works and he attributes a lot of his ability to kind of function in our world and contribute to our world based on the skills that he learned at our school. Cindy wrote this about her son, Jonah. Jonah started out in a public school. He was typical in so many amazing ways, but he was gifted in others. He was attending the public school that I myself grew up in. The town, the people, all the same. The only problem was that he wasn't like everyone else. He is special, but also needs a specific type of attention that just was not being provided. Endless tears, endless agony every single evening, and copious amounts of homework that just did not interest him. He had no friends. He was on medication for ADHD that made him gain weight, and it made him sad and feel isolated. We were all broken. Change had to happen. My husband and I toured the facility and set up a shadow day. I was in tears dropping him off. What if these people don't understand him? What if these people can't handle him? What if he needs me? What if the kids don't like him? What if he melts down or doesn't meet their expectations? What if everything? The day was over and I came to see him. He came barreling out the door with the biggest smile on his face that I had ever seen. I had never seen that smile in months. I was in tears, completely overwhelmed. I had many questions. How did they do it? Magic. It's the JB magic. I'm eternally grateful to the staff at JB. My son has pride. To hear your child say, "Mom, I am proud of you. I am proud of me. Are you proud of me?" is a complete game changer. He tells me when he needs a moment, he's learning how to calm his body, and he has friends. He is no longer the kid left on the playground because he fell asleep, or the kid getting bullied because he doesn't understand the game that they're playing. He has buddies, friendships to carry him through the days. My favorite part of JB is that JB doesn't make the kid fit the mold. They make the mold to fit the kid, and that's something special. No child learns the same as the next, and they shouldn't be expected to. Reinforcement of his self-worth, pride, and confidence that may be missing is an important key to growth, maturity, and acceptance. Julie Billiard School of Akron has helped my child face these head-on and learn to be proud. for that I'm grateful. So there's another parent talking about what our school has really done for them. And it's hard for me to, I can tell you all the things that we do, the philosophy that we have, but really until you come see it, like John said, you won't really understand the difference of putting all of these kids that have never been loved and accepted in a school, put them in the same place and watch them build each other up and watch them figure out that they have a lot of gifts that they can contribute. It's a really wonderful, special place. So if you're really called and moved by this, I would absolutely love to have you out for a tour. It's 30 minutes. We can walk you through the school. You get to meet the kids, see the kids. It will be the best part of your day besides this meeting, if it's a Wednesday.
Good joke.
Yeah, pay $1. No, I'm just kidding. And so I really would invite you to either location, and we love visitors, and I think that it's always good for us to be advocates for those people that maybe don't have a really loud voice in our world, and our kids certainly don't have that loud of a voice, and I'd ask that we all learn a little bit of how to advocate for one another today, and make sure that if a parent is struggling with their child's education, that you maybe tell them about our school. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. That was really good. Is it time for questions?
Yes, that's what I was just going to say.
If I may. So this school, the students are kindergarten through
8th grade.
8th grade. And then what happens to, and well, you said 100% of your students graduate from
High school.
high school.
Mm-hmm.
So are most of them going back to public schools, to private schools, to?
So we had graduation last night of our 8th graders, and about 50% of them are going to go back into their public schools.
Okay.
And then we work with those public schools, attend the IEP meetings, we create a really nice transition plan, make sure that they have kind of an advocate in the school for them as they move forward. And some public schools are phenomenal. Some leave something to be desired. So then about 50% of our kids go to Villa Angela St. Joe's High School, which has a program for kids with special needs, or Cleveland Central Catholic. Some of our kids go on to Lawrence. And St. Vincent St. Mary's has a really good special ed program within their high school as well. So we really want our kids to kind of leave our protected nest and go and have to use some of their skills in a more typical environment.
Great.
John?
And I think it'd be helpful if you explain how these families afford the school.
So in the state of Ohio, there's two scholarships. One is called the Autism Scholarship, and one is called the John Peterson Scholarship. Both of those are essentially vouchers that any parent who has a child with a disability can access. So in our Akron school, 44% of our families are below the poverty level. So they're not necessarily paying for the tuition. They are using those scholarships to attend our school. You have to essentially give up your free appropriate public education, sign a waiver, and go to a state provider of your choice. We're a certified state provider. The funds funnel through that public school district and come to us who's actually providing the service. So the Autism Scholarship covers our full tuition. The John Peterson Scholarship does not. But in my Akron school alone, we gave out $344,000 in financial aid amongst 50 kids this year. So 50 kids, $344,000. To make sure that every child, regardless of their ability to pay, if they needed us, that we could be there. And that's why we do a lot of annual fundraising to make sure that these kids can attend.
What are some of your fundraising events?
We do one major gala for the network, and that's at the Intercontinental Hotel downtown in Cleveland, and that was in April, which is Autism Awareness Month. And then we have an annual fund that runs every year really to support the ongoing operation of our school.
My name is Phil Tobin, and I want to applaud you for what you're doing. I could have written that story of that first son you wrote about. I have a grandson who has a form of that called dysgraphia. And it's a little bit different than the others, but he has the inability to write. He just cannot write. And he's at Lawrence School, but he went through that stage in high school or grade school where everything that you mentioned, you know, just being burned out at the end of the day, being rejected, failure, failure, failure. And then he joined Lawrence, and it made a huge difference. And I encourage anybody in this room, really, to go to her school and watch what happens there. It's not like any other educational environment you've ever seen. I assume Lawrence is similar to what you're doing. It is an amazing way of engaging the children. They cannot just sit back and do nothing and just be neutral. They're very much engaged. You have a special place in heaven for what you do, and I really appreciate it. Tell me, are you Kent's daughter?
I am.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you do walk into the room, you see the kids learning in such different ways. We have stand-up desks for the kids. They have bouncy bands on the end of their seat because we know that they can sit longer if their legs are moving and pumping. We have noise-canceling headphones for some of the kids. We have therapy swings in the room because we know that language is stimulated through swinging. So some of them will take their spelling tests in a swing. It's just a really different approach to education, and instead of kids laughing at them, they're kind of like, well, that's what you need to learn, and that's awesome, and it's my responsibility to build you up, and this is what I need to learn. So if you walk through with me, they might say, hey, what do you struggle with? Because they think everyone who walks into our doors struggles with something, but if we're all honest, we do. So I brought through the mayor, and he's like, well, don't ask my wife what I struggle with, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so you go through 8th grade, so they're not going off into the workforce, but this is sort of a pitch. What we found is that people with autism often have a focus and are able to do tasks that other people would find onerous, and they excel, and obviously some are brilliant and can do amazing things. So do you work with life skills at your level, or is that more later on in high school?
We've started to team with some businesses who have been interested in having kids or adults with special needs work in their facilities and wanted to know how they can set up the environment. And it's not just for people with autism. They've come to us about people with dyslexia, dysgraphia. They've come to us about what they can do differently in the interview process. So we are definitely passionate about that. One of the things that we did intentionally was we started a summer program where we brought back some of our alumni to be junior counselors, and we actually walked them through the interview process, creating a resume. They had to manage their money, things that all kids are really not good at these days, but our kids especially struggle with the impulsiveness. They just kind of want to go and blow their money. And it was a really great opportunity for us to bring back our own and give them a real work experience. And now what I'd love to do once they have that experience is to team with organizations that are willing to hire them.
Okay. Oh, yes, James.
Thanks for coming, Lenny.
Sure, Jen.
Why don't you share a little bit of your background on how you ended up being the head of this great school?
I said yes to anything for these kids, and here I am. I started in the classroom. So I taught 2nd grade special ed. I went to the University of Dayton, and shortly after my graduation from the University of Dayton, I started a program in Charlotte, North Carolina, fresh out of school for kids with special needs. And when I came home in the summer, I approached our bishop and wanted to start the same program here. But he said, before you do that, I'd like you to go see Julie Billiard School. And when I did, and I saw how much synergy there was between what my heart was called to do versus what Julie Billiard was doing, I got a job there and started in the classroom. Then I revamped the kindergarten program, and then at the same time got my master's in educational administration through John Carroll, and then became assistant principal, vice president, and then president CEO when we launched the network.
Pretty cool story.
It is.
I've always, since I was in 2nd grade, have spent time with the kids with special needs. And I think God kind of puts things in our hearts that He knows in later in life we're going to use and need. And for some reason, I'm kind of always felt called to this work, no real rhyme or reason, and it's become my life's work. So.
I was just going to say that a lot of public schools, as you mentioned, very poorly serve special needs population, so it's wonderful that they have this alternative. Now in Hudson, we actually look forward, we try and provide the best education we can. And what we found is, the cost of educating someone with special needs could be $80,000 a year and up. They talk about government funding, but pretty much it's about a fifth of that, and the rest is the taxpayers. Again, it hasn't stopped us from trying to provide the best education, but so we're trying to advocate with the state and federal government to better fund that. I don't know if JV is part of that effort as well.
Yeah, I'm on some advocacy groups down in Columbus, and we've actually presented in front of the Senate and the House about what it really costs for a public school to do right by a child. And this is not a knock on any public school. I mean, I'm a Hudson grad, and I actually taught in Hudson for a short amount of time. So I really appreciate all that everyone does for these kids. The fact of the matter is that resources are not endless. They just can't be. And so the unique part of our school is that we have 12 kids in a classroom and 2 intervention specialists, 2 licensed teachers to deal with these children. So it's a 6-to-1 ratio. So the ratios are much smaller, the resources are different, and it's much more individualized attention than sometimes they would receive in a public school. And not a knock against anything, but.
I'm just going to mention, I see in your story about how you come to this position where you are now, I see 15 years or whatever after the students that we get to deal with in the service learning class. It almost seems like a progression. There's the beginning of it, and this is more like I don't know if you were part of service learning or if it even existed back when you went to Hudson, but
Did, yeah.
It did?
Yeah.
Did? Were you in that? Or?
I was in it for towards the end, I was in it for when my older sister was.
Okay. Well, and I'm sure your connection to special needs students, everything goes back before that, but it'll be exciting to see. It's exciting to see what you've become, and it'll be exciting to see what our other service learning students become in the future. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
When I took this position, my father found in the Hudson Hub Times, when I was in 2nd grade, they actually interviewed, it was the first year of inclusion. And so they interviewed me because I was spending time in the inclusion room as a 2nd grader. And they said, Lanny Davis, why do you do this? And I was in 2nd grade. And I said something about Ben's hands don't work, so I'm Ben's hands. And,
wow.
As much as that I made my dad proud, it really just means that I think God has me exactly where He wants to be able to do this work. And the coolest part is that I get to be the voice now for a lot of kids, and that they too deserve a chance in this world. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing job, Lanny. Thank you for starting your day here at Rotary. And we know that you're in Hudson, so you can come back and see us sometime.
Yeah, we just moved back. Yeah.
Great.
That's awesome. Wow, what an amazing message to start our day. It's just absolutely incredible, the work that you're doing and the passion that you have. I mean, it's just awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Rotabuck raffle, and then I've got one quote, and then we'll be on our way this week.
I got this one.
Payout $15, jackpot $197. And Landy, could you pick up a winning ticket for us?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, last 4, 1035.
What color?
Purple. Blue. Rich.
Rich.
You gave me number 8. $15, that's pretty good.
Where's Coach? There you go.
Nicely done. Mr. Sogan,
Thank
to
you,
you.
Rich.
Thank you.
All right, our next meeting, next Wednesday, we're gonna have Jill Miller. She's a doctor, and she's gonna be sharing what's new in primary care. June will kick off our health and wellness month, And this month is concluded with Lanny's talk. We went through Mental Health and Disabilities Education Month. So we had a number of great speakers, and we're going to transition into health and wellness for June. So a fitting quote, certainly with Lanny in the room and the attitude that she has, but the only disability in life is a bad attitude.